Welcome to our QPR Preview Show ahead of the London derby with Millwall. And of course, we all came back down to earth last Saturday. After 4 wins in a row, we had our first league defeat of 2025, falling to the 2-0 defeat against Sheffield Wednesday. Could we have any complaints, Dave?
No, I thought it was a really tight game. I didn't think there was a lot in the game, really. It was similar to a few recent ones. I thought we played pretty well. It just always felt like that first goal was going to be key. It was similar in the whole game, and we got the first goal in the whole game, and they did in this one. And after they went 1-0 up, I just couldn't see us getting back in it. And Sheffield Wednesday saw the game out quite well. But I think we said it before. It's two very evenly matched sides, and it showed on the day. There was very little between us, and if Powell's free kick goes in earlier in the game, we probably win that 1-0, and we'd all be celebrating. So I don't think it was anything to be too concerned about, but disappointing to lose though.
Yeah, I've got in my notes here that it was just so even until the first goal. It felt like to me, like you say, Powell's free kick, it was nearly a postage stamp perfect, wasn't it? If that goes in, who knows? Marty will obviously be happy he doesn't have to come up against Danny Roll every week. It was just, as you said, who was going to find that little bit of quality? Unfortunately, it was them. And for me, it was just one of those afternoons where there was like not really a QPR player who scored more than 5 or 6 out of 10. There was no one who in hoops who could get hold of the game, dominate the pitch, and Sheffield Wednesday were the ones who were able to up their level a little bit in the second half, which maybe was a surprise because we talked last week about them looking tired in the last game, travelling away, having a day less to prepare. But after the first half, it was QPR who looked more leggy, didn't we? Should Marty have rotated more?
Yeah, I think I get why he started by that team, and I think it's probably the right thing to do. But we did look tired, especially the start of the second half, and probably could have made them changes a little bit earlier. I think he done them just before they scored, didn't he? Maybe could have been 5, 10 minutes earlier to make an impact, but it was a difficult one because, let's say, the game was so close. It was, we weren't terrible, we weren't brilliant, just like we've been in a lot of our games recently. And you think we could have just got ahead, could have been very different. But I mean, every time I see Sheffield Wednesday, I think they're a really impressive side. I think they've got a brilliant manager, and you know, it's no disgrace to lose to them, really.
Yeah, definitely not. If they can find a little bit more consistency, because they've been win, draw, lose, then there's no reason they can't finish top six. They've got all the ingredients there, haven't they? For some reason, for QPR, we just continue to struggle in the third game of these 3 game weeks, even with an extra day. We still looked at the more tired of the two teams. If he'd rotated, though, he'd have got slaughtered if we'd lost. So it's a tough one to judge it. Saito and Lloyd, in hindsight, maybe could have started for extra energy, but Kieran Morgan as well, he's another one. Last few matches hasn't been quite as effective. I looked in the last 3 games in that 3 game week, his pass accuracy was never higher than 69%. So he's been a little bit off it. So perhaps Colback could have started, but you're splitting hairs, really. They just upped their level, took their few chances that came and won the game. And at least QPR have had a week off now. And again, maybe it was the travel. We had a lot of traveling earlier in that week, didn't we? So it's a shame it kills our momentum. And of course, this time last week, we were all getting a bit excited, dreaming of the playoffs. I mean, after a decade at this level, if we can't dream when we get to within 4 points, when can we dream? We have to take the opportunity when we had it. And to be honest, we were right to talk about it because if we'd beaten Sheffield Wednesday, we'd have moved to within 3 points of the top six. Are you still dreaming or just happy to be in mid-table?
I mean, I think it was always a long shot, and it still is, but it's not an impossible scenario still. I mean, we've still got a lot of games left. I just see us at the minute, we're like, when we have these 3 games week, if we have one good week, we get like 7 points or 9 points in a week, we could be right on the verge of the playoffs. If we have a bad week, we could be back in the bottom six again before we know it. So we're in a bit of an odd position at the minute where we're not really sure which way we go, but playoffs, it wasn't impossible last week, and it's not this week. We're going to lose games between now and the end of the season. Not going to win all the time, and I just look at the sides around above us and around us. No one's that brilliant, I don't think. There's good sides, and probably some better than us, but we can compete with them, and there's still an opportunity there for us.
Yeah, the top 4 teams aside, it's very much of a muchness, as I think we said before. I still feel we throw in too many off days to ever contend, like the Swansea performance, a bit like Sheffield Wednesday, the second half. I guess it's not still over. And obviously, 2 quick fire matches this week, 4 or 6 points, we stay in contention. And we responded well to our last 2 defeats. So let's hope we can do it again, this time away at Millwall. And last week, we had 10th versus 11th. This week, it's 13th versus 14th. Millwall had a pretty poor run of form recently. They were 6 without a win prior to last weekend. They only had 1 win in 10. But typically, QPR come into town, so they decided to win back-to-back games. Now, we got it right in our preview for the first meeting early in the season, saying Neil Harris should have left at the end of last season with his mission accomplished and his head held high. He ended up leaving in December, despite having them in mid-table, replaced over Christmas by Alex Neil. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, like we said, it probably seemed a good idea for him to go on a high because he's like a club legend. You don't want to see, it peter out as it did. And I actually thought he did quite well at the start of the season. They were up near the playoffs, weren't they, for a little bit, and then fell away a lot. But I think Alex Neil is a good championship manager. He does seem kind of suited to Millwall the way he plays. His teams are always really difficult to beat, and that's what Millwall are known for. They're never an easy place to go. So I think he's quite a good fit there. And although they've not been brilliant since he took over, like you said, they've won the last two and they're starting to get going a little bit now. I can't imagine they'll be down the bottom at the end of the season. I think they'll finish mid-table comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought they looked really good at Loftus Road when they came early in the
Mm.
season. We were lucky to get a point that day. It's strange how Neil Harris still ended up out the door. It seemed to be more off the pitch things, I think, more than what was happening on the pitch. Alex Neil, like I said, he has a wobbly start, but those back-to-back wins now should settle them down. Like you say, mid-table's probably where they'll end up. He'd been out of work for a year, which I didn't realise after obviously struggling at Stoke. But that job seems a poison chalice for anyone who goes there. And I agree. I think Millwall looks a much better fit for him and for them as well. And we always say it with Millwall, but we know what we're going to get, don't we, in terms of style of play?
Yeah, it's a difficult place to go. I mean, we haven't got a bad record there really, but they always make it hard for you. They're direct, they get balls in the box. They could play a bit of football as well. They're not just like a long ball 80s team there. They've got a bit about them, but they're difficult to play against. And it'll be a tough one. We need to go there. We need to be at our best. Especially defending set pieces because we've been better at that the last few months. But we're going to need to keep doing that if we're going to get anything there.
Yeah, they can mix it up, and the stats show the bottom of the league for possession, 24th at 40% pass accuracy. They're also bottom, 70%, joint second for most fouls, which isn't a surprise. But they have their way, and it works for them. And like we both said before, they were impressive at Loftus Road.
Yeah.
They certainly don't concede many. They've only conceded 26 in 29 games. That's like top six effort. That isn't it really? And it's 10 fewer than any other side in the bottom half. So pretty impressive. But just much like QPR and or a lot of all the other sides in the bottom half, it's the lack of goals holding them back. They've only scored 28 goals, so it means they're not even scoring a goal a game. Both their wins this week were 1-0, and against Portsmouth, it was their only shot on target. I think, though, overall, the stats show we're in for a very competitive afternoon. For QPR, the main talking points this week have all been about new deals, signings, departures. If we start with Ilias Chair, his new contract, we hoped a few weeks ago when he hit 250 appearances, he'd stay. He is. You have to be happy with that, Dave.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant news. I was kind of surprised. I was thinking he'd probably be looking to move on when his contract comes to an end. I think he had another 18 months left, but to sign the long-term deal, it's looking like probably the best year of his career now. He's going to be at the club. I still always think of him like he's 20, 21 years old and he's just coming through. He's gone really quick, isn't it? He's like 27 now. And, hopefully he can be here for a few years to come. And, he's not having the best of seasons, has he, really? I didn't think he was great again last week, but I'm really pleased that he's going to stay on. And it's a good sign of intent from the club that we're able to keep these players. They obviously think something's brewing here. And I think it's quite exciting for the future.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you say about him looking young. I think even when he's 35, 40, because of his obviously his size, he's always going to look small and young, isn't he? His deal was going to end this summer, but we had the option to extend it for a year. And we know from past experience, once you're forcing that extra year on a player, it doesn't tend to end well. So it's good we've been able to sort it out in good terms. I put on our form, to me, it feels like a bit like a new signing because if he left, he's so hard to replace, would also cost a lot of money to replace him. And when he's on it, as you say, he's greater quality than anybody else we've got in the team. Yes, he's had a few off days lately, but look at his assists for Jimmy Dunne's headers against
Yeah.
Preston and Watford recently. QPR's best days are when Ilias Chair plays well. So let's hope he can continue his good career that he's having here. And looks like he could be here into his 30s and beyond, doesn't it now? Somebody else getting a new deal is Emerson Sutton, young 18-year-old, billed by Christian Nori as a dangerous and exciting attacker. He was apparently being courted by a host of big clubs. Good that he wants to sign and stay at QPR as well.
I think that's probably even better news than the chair one. I mean, who knows how it will go for him? He's very young and he's got a lot to come through. But when you've got a player that age who's impressed at that level and he's got the big clubs coming in for him to want to commit himself to the club and want to stay, it kind of shows we're going in the right direction. And I think that's something, we've been critical of them a lot this season. But one of the things they've got quite right is giving these young players a chance, like Kieran Morgan and Coley have come in and got chances. There is a pathway. They spoke about a pathway for about 10 years, but there is one now for these 18, 19-year-olds to get in the team. And it's an opportunity for him. You think maybe he'll get in before the end of the season and see how he goes. But I think that's really positive that we're tying these young players down.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I know much about him, but obviously he got a hat trick against Arsenal in the Youth Cup, so that would have had heads turning. I just think it's important that he wanted to stay. He could have moved, it
Yeah,
says in the press, to Liverpool, Chelsea, whoever. But like you say, he's seen that pathway at QPR. I mean, Kieran Morgan's the same age as him, and he can see him playing every week. That's more attractive, I think, than going to sit in someone's reserves for 3, 4, 5 years. So I think I agree as well that we could probably see him on the bench later in the season once maybe we are officially safe, and that's something to look forward to. Somebody who's not signed the new deal yet, of course, is Jimmy Dunne. And since our last show, he's been heavily linked with a move to Sheffield United. Do you think he's going to leave?
I really hope he doesn't. But it's a real difficult one for the club because he's out of contract in the summer, and I'm amazed they haven't tied him down yet. I think he's been since he moved to right back. It must have been roughly around a year ago now, isn't it? He's just been fantastic for us, and even going back to centre half recently when Cook was injured, he's been great. And it's bizarre that they haven't tied him down, but it's difficult because if Sheffield United do come in with a couple of million for him, got to consider it really, because you're going to get nothing for him in the summer, and will you ever get that sort of money for him again? Really difficult one for the club. It would be a really unpopular decision to sell him, but I don't know. It's a difficult one. I'm hoping they just don't come in for him and he stays. But
Yeah.
yeah, it could be a long week next week.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to go one of two ways. Either we announce a new deal or we announce he's gone.
Yeah,
I think he's going to stay, but it's a big decision for him. Fair enough. He's 27 now, so it's a big point in his career. Joe Perry on our forum put some good points that he might see this as his big opportunity at his age to play in the top flight. He's been at
yeah.
QPR for 4 years. If he's getting offered higher wages, knows it might be his best chance to play for Ireland too. Certainly devil's advocate there. And another thing is we only offered him a 1 year deal last summer. Why? What message did that send to him? Maybe that's playing on his mind as well. Didn't feel as wanted as some other players, perhaps. So let's hope it all becomes a mute point and he does sign a new deal ASAP. But let's see what happens over the next weeks and months. Somebody who is coming in though is Yang Min-Hyeok. Sorry if I've said that wrong, but 18-year-old Korean winger signed on loan from Tottenham. Exciting talent by all accounts, but did we need another winger?
Yeah, it was an odd one really because we are quite overloaded there, and we got Dembele coming back soon. Can't quite work that one out, but I suppose if you look at it, and if they are talking about maybe getting in the playoffs, the wide players haven't actually scored many goals. Although Smith and Chair have been playing quite well recently, and Saito's done well, they don't get many goals. And if he can come in and get 4 or 5 goals from out wide, maybe that's kind of what Cifuentes is looking at, trying to add to it. Maybe it's with the idea that he comes in and he gets a season on loan here next year. They've done that going back many years when they first signed Sarap. They did that with Spurs. I wonder if that's in mind because he's only 18, isn't he? I think he's quite young, so that might be something they've got in mind. But be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe we've got some kind of agreement that we'll take him now because he can then settle and he's ready to hit the ground
Mm.
running next season. That could work. Otherwise, it does look on paper a slightly odd one for me, I have to say, because we've already got Chair and Saito fighting over the same place. Smith's played really well lately. He's going to have Dembele back soon, like you said. Daniel Benny's hardly featuring.
Yeah.
Lloyd can play out wide. So if he's unbelievable and propels us to the top six, it's going to look silly saying all this, isn't it? And maybe we'll understand it more. But like I say, on paper, it just feels like he's maybe going to take game time away from our own young players. But we'll see how much he even plays. Like I say, it could be something to do with next season. And if he does get introduced on Saturday, he's certainly going to have a nice introduction to English football away to Millwall, isn't he? So one to watch for. Somebody leaving QPR the other way is Everton Santos, going back out on loan to Portugal with a view to a permanent deal in the summer. Any surprise there for you?
No, not really. I don't think he's ever looked that great, has he? To be honest, you know, he, I don't think we've seen him since our Middlesbrough game when he got absolutely torn to pieces, and he never really recovered from that. And he was hung out to dry a bit that night, to be honest. But yeah, he just didn't really have the quality. But you know, you make these signs. I don't think he come in for much money, so it was just a gamble to have a look at him. And it hasn't worked out. Maybe they can get some money back for him in the summer. Probably best for him that he goes and gets games, because I can't see how he gets back in the team at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his best performance was probably when he was a right winger against Luton in the cup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the data ever showed the club that made them think he could be a right back, but probably best all round that he starts afresh back in Portugal, because he's not even been making the bench recently, has he? If we quickly look at the team news for this week, certainly some big decisions coming in defence for Marty Cifuentes. Good luck trying to work out what he does here with Cook and Morrison both available again. Is he going to change it?
I'm not sure. I thought Edwards was actually really good in the last game, and I'd probably like to see him again. But he has got options now, and we know what a direct side Millwall can be. So you need the physicality back there. I think he might go with the same back four again. Fox has been playing reasonably well recently. You know, I mean, Cook and Morrison. Morrison's been in and out, hasn't he, with injuries, and I'd love to see him back in. You don't want him to pull up again and be out for quite a while. So I think they'll probably ease him back in and go same back four again.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll go the same, give them another week or so to recover. The defense has been all right. Even last week, they were still solid overall, like you said. And
Yeah.
if it goes wrong against Millwall, he can then change it in midweek for Blackburn. In midfield, out wide, up front, can you see him making any other changes?
Possibly maybe Chair coming out. He's looked a bit tired the last couple of games, but they've had the week break, so he does usually does score right against Millwall. He's got a few goals against them before, so maybe they'll look to start him. But I don't see him making massive changes, because I said I don't think there was much wrong last week. I didn't think their performance was any worse than what they did at Hull, to be honest, and we were all thrilled with that. Yeah, I don't see him making too many changes. The only thing I'll do is, if it's similar to last week, maybe make the changes a little bit earlier in the game, try and get some fresh legs on a bit earlier.
Yeah, yeah. If it's level at half time, be a bit more proactive, like he was at Hull.
Yeah,
He just, like you say, he just waited a little bit too long against Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he? Michael Frey is one. He's been not quite as good the last few matches, but I think he's going to start here. Still, Millwall, like you said, strong, solid
yeah.
defense. I think we need Michael Frey up there. Then maybe he will rotate it more in midweek again, depending how the match pans out. And how do you expect it to pan out? Can we bounce back from the defeat?
I think we can. I feel like every week I say it's going to be a draw, and I'm going with that again. I think it's going to be a tight one. I wouldn't be surprised if we go there and got a win. I think we're quite capable of going there, but like I said, their defensive record's really good, and we still don't score that many goals. So I'm going to go with a low scoring draw, maybe 1-1.
Yeah, it's a hard one to predict. A week ago, with our form versus what Millwall's was at that point, I'd have said we're going to go there and win, but now they bounced back and we've lost. So it mixes things up a little bit. One thing I would probably predict is it's going to be a low scoring affair, could be settled by a set piece. Sadly, I'm going to go the opposite. Do you think Millwall are going to nick it 1-0? Could be just one of those afternoons for us. I've just got this feeling. QPR's next two matches are both midweek. Blackburn at home has been brought forward to Tuesday because they're through to something called the fourth round of the FA Cup. Never heard of it. Then after that, it's Coventry on the following Tuesday. So Brian will be in the hot seat for both of those midweek shows. Then Dave and I will be back in a fortnight ahead of a Friday night clash against Derby. In between, we've also got our latest episode of Ours Stories, chatting to fans about why they love QPR, and that's with QPR in the Community Trust's Justin Stone. That will be out next weekend for you to watch. Until then, let's hope we can bounce back on Saturday. Let us know your predictions in the comments, and come on, you R's.